What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Vancouver. We have Renair de Ritter going against Brendan Allen. We're in Canada for a very solid fight night card. I'm really looking forward to this card. I think we have some extremely fun fights on it and can't wait to break it down all for you guys from a betting perspective. Before we get into it, if you guys could do me a couple favors, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things go a very long way, and they are free. If you do want to support me more and get more content, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. It's where you'll find early access to my bets, my bet write-ups, my full card best bet article, and much more content. Check out the Discord as well on dfsbythenumbers.com. But yeah, I got a couple spots sticking out. Looking for some violence here in Vancouver. And looking forward to a fun night of fights. We got an early start time as well, 4 o'clock Eastern time, which means the fights will get over around 10ish, which means I'll have some time to, I don't know, maybe hang out with some friends, maybe go to the strip club, get some titties in my face, because titties are good. All right, let's get into some fights here. We'll kick it off with the first fight of the card. We got Melissa Croin going against Tainara Lisboa. We have a line flip. Melissa Croin was plus 235 at open. She is now currently minus 125. Tainara Lisboa opened up minus 275, and she's currently plus 105. So this is one of the first fights I did tape, actually, after the fights were over for the last card. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't extremely impressed with Croin, to be honest. I do think she does some things well. She's aggressive. She has that dog in her. She's going to march forward. She's going to pressure. She's going to push you against the cage. And if she can get you down, she does have some very good ground and pound. But ultimately, she is very hittable at distance. I'm still not kind of sure if she's a UFC level caliber fighter. But on the flip side, you got Tainara Lisboa, who I'm also kind of not really sure on. She's looked pretty solid in some fights, showcasing some grappling. She's also looked pretty bad in some fights. In her last fight, getting, I think it was a key lock in the second round, just wasn't the best look in the world. So I'm just not really sure about either of these two. I think if you got plus money on Croin, that was absolutely the way to go. Now at minus 125, although I still think she wins, I'm not tempted enough to lay a minus number. So yeah, the pick for me is Croin to win the fight, but nothing really sticking out. I do want to mention she does have a 100% finish rate, and Lisboa has been finished in 2 of her 3 losses, both by submission. So maybe a Croin inside the distance, but it's not something I'm extremely in love with. So, and it's not the best price, to be honest, especially for a female fight. But I could see a decision. I could see maybe a late finish for Croin, but I think Croin probably does get her hand raised. No bet for me, though. Next, we got Azamat Bokayev going against Yursuri Belgario. Belgori. I don't know what the hell it's pronounced. We'll call him Belgori. All right, so we got Bakov minus 280. Belgori is plus 240. And yeah, I think Bakov is the rightful favorite. I think he's a rightful, decent-sized favorite just because he has more paths to win. I'm not completely sold on Bakov thus far. He does have 2 knockouts, both in the first round. He's been looking good, but I have seen him slow down in the past. I don't think he has the best cardio. We haven't really seen him into a second and third round thus far in the UFC, and I think that probably does change here. It's just, Bakov does have a clear path to victory. And like I said, we haven't seen, the cardio, we haven't seen the second, third round, we haven't seen the grappling of Bakov yet, but I think he probably goes to the grappling here, or at least he should, against Belgori, who I have seen taken down, who can get stuck on his back, and Bakov is just going to have a big advantage on the ground. So this is one of those fights where I can see Bakov winning by all 3 methods. I think he absolutely has the power to knock out Belgori. I could see a TKO. I could see a potential submission. I actually thought the submission prop might be sneaky this week. They're only giving us plus 240, which is not great. And then also I think Bakov by decision makes sense as well. So I could see all 3 methods. I think Bakov is an okay parlay piece this week. I didn't personally parlay him, but if I were to do a parlay, he might be somebody I'd throw in there. But yeah, Bakov should win. Just kind of up in the air on how he gets it done. Next, we got Stephanie Luciano going against Ravenna Olivera. We got Luciano minus 285, Ravenna Olivera plus 245. And this is a big stay-away fight for me just because of the unknowns on Ravenna Olivera. First and foremost, there's no tape on this girl. There's no tape on her. You're able to find, 2, maybe 3 fights on Olivera, and one of those fights was against Tainara Lisboa in her debut, which took place both at bantamweight, now 2 weight classes up from where she's fighting in this fight, and then also 2 years ago. And the thing that concerns me about Olivera and concerns me about Luciano at minus 300 is Olivera took 2 years off, and we could potentially see a bunch of improvements. We could potentially see a whole new fighter, and Olivera, for what it's worth, looked really good at weigh-ins. Seems to be making the correct move to strawweight. She looks good in this weight class, but I got to see it first. I got to see her fight in this weight class. I got to see her fight. I think Luciano probably wins, but I mean, if it turns out Olivera has made improvements, coming down to strawweight, we could see Olivera maybe have some success here. But yeah, no bet for me. Next fight, we got Drew Dober going against Kyle Preple. Another fight I just don't want anything to do with. I mean, Drew Dober, in my opinion, just at this stage of his career, 36 years old, now finished 8 times in his career, just taking a ton of damage. I just feel like he shouldn't be minus 440 really against anybody ever again, but he's going against Kyle Preple. Like this is going to be like the easiest matchup Dober's had in just a very, very long time. Like, it really doesn't get much easier than Kyle Preple. But still, with that said, I'm not laying minus 440 on Drew Dober, who I now worry about the durability, who I've always worried about the strike and defense. And, Dober should win this fight. I think he's the more skilled fighter, and skill for skill, it's not even close. But, I mean, in terms of durability, Dober used to be one of the most durable fighters in the UFC. That's no longer the case. Kyle Preple, at this stage of his career, is probably the more durable fighter. Preple has never been finished by knockout. So, yeah, I think the over 1.5 could be sneaky, potentially. I think Dober decision could be sneaky, potentially. But I don't really want to deal with this fight. I'll be looking to fade Dober in the very near future. If they make him, a favorite against somebody with power, somebody who is, kind of on his skill level, I'll be looking to fade Dober for sure. It's just I don't know if Preple is that guy. So it's another fade for me. Next up, we'll get my first bet of the night here. It's going to be Danny Barlo versus Jordane Santos. I took a 1.05 unit shot on Danny Barlo by knockout at plus 145. You can get as good as plus 151 for that Barlo KO prop. And I think that's how you play Barlo if you play him at all this week. So he's minus 300. And you got to think, if Barlo's looking minus 300, if Barlo's paying off this price tag, he's getting a knockout. If this fight goes the distance, it's going to be a very close fight, because Jordane Santos, although I don't think he's that great, I don't think he's a UFC level caliber fighter, what I do think is he has a really good volume, and if this fight does go 15 minutes, it could be like a volume versus, damage type, split decision type thing, but I think Barlo does find the chin. I mean, going back and watching Jordane Santos eat, upwards of 130 significant strikes to the face against Ozzy Diaz, get wobbled badly multiple times by Ozzy Diaz. I mean, if you're getting wobbled by Ozzy Diaz, I think somebody with Danny Barlo's power can potentially put you out. So, Jordane Santos, he blocks punches with his face, he leaves a ton of openings, and Danny Barlo should be able to find some of those openings. So, yeah, I think Barlo gets it done. I think Barlo gets it done by knockout. And if he's not able to beat Jordane Santos, I have major concerns about Barlo going forward, because you're really not going to get an easier matchup than Santos here. Next, we got Hyun-Sung Park going against Bruno Silva. And yeah, I like violence here. I like the fight doesn't go to decision. I got in at minus 130 for 1.3 units. You can still get it around minus 145. I like that quite a bit. I mean, we have 2 flyweight finishers, right? We have a guy in Hyun-Sung Park who has power on the feet. He has multiple knockout wins. He's a very, very slick grappler. I think he's finished half his wins by submission, so I could see Park winning by knockout. I could see Park winning by submission. On the flip side, we have Bruno Silva, the same thing. Bruno Silva is a black belt, a very dangerous black belt when the fight hits the mat, and Bruno Silva has a lot of power for the flyweight division, so I can see 4 different ways this fight can be finished. Both fighters have been finished a lot. Bruno Silva's been finished 4 times now, and Hyun-Sung Park has been finished in his only loss. I think violence makes a lot of sense here. I wouldn't be laying minus 230 on Hyun-Sung Park. I still think this guy's very unproven, and I'm kind of up in the air on where this guy's at. Is he a high level fighter? Is he one of these guys that's gonna be like a top guy, or is he gonna be like a mid to lower range type guy? I don't know, because he's beating guys like Shannon Ross and Carlos Hernandez, but he's losing to guys like Tatsuro Taira, so it's kind of hard to know where he's really at. But I'm going to pick Park to win this fight. I think Bruno Silva's taken a ton of damage his last couple fights, especially the Van fight. His chin, his durability doesn't seem to be that great. His cardio's never really been that great. So I think Hyun-Sung Park eventually finds the finish here. But Bruno Silva kind of live here. And I think it wouldn't shock me if Bruno Silva landed a big shot on Hyun-Sung Park. Hyun-Sung Park's been dropped multiple times in his career, and a couple of those times were against some very low-level guys. So, yeah, just give me violence. I don't care who wins. Give me somebody to get served here. Minus 130, 1.3 units on the fight. Doesn't go to decision. Up next, we got Charles Jordane going against Davey Grant. I got to go Jordane here. We're in Canada. I'm going to be the hometown guy. If this fight's close, which I think it's going to be close, probably going to go to the hometown guy. The judges hate Davey Grant. I thought Davey Grant, borderline almost got robbed in the Daniel Marcos fight. I also thought, Davey Grant beat Adrian Yanez, a couple years back as well. So if this fight's close and it goes to decision, they're probably going to give it to the hometown guy. Crooked, corrupt judges leaning the hometown guy's way. It's one of those fights where I think Jordane wins. I don't really think he looks minus 170, but I think he gets his hand raised at the end of the day. I'm fine with sitting back and watching. This one should be a fun fight. Speaking of fun fights, we got Matt Fvola going against Kyle Nelson. I think this is one of the most violent fights on the entire card. Both guys who have a ton of power and both guys who have extremely questionable durability. I think these guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls. Matt Fvola should probably be the favorite, I suppose, just because he does have a couple paths here to win. Like, he can go out there and wrestle, but when's the last time Matt Fvola went out there and wrestled consistently over the course of 15 minutes? The answer to that is like 6 years ago against like Jalen Turner or Luis Pena. In the last 6 years, he hasn't really tried to go out there and wrestle guys. He's tried to go out there and maybe mix in a takedown or two, but he's primarily looking to stand and bang, and I think Kyle Nelson's going to oblige in that type of fight. Kyle Nelson's going to stand and bang, and I think these guys are going to test each other's chins. We're going to see who has the better chin, and although I don't think either guy has the best chin, I think Kyle Nelson has the slightly better chin, but I don't know. I think somebody's getting served. I like the under 2.5. I like it quite a bit. I have the under 2.5 rounds at minus 125 for 1.25 units, and then I also added 0.75 units on the same under 2.5 at minus 140. So, 2 units total on the under 2.5 rounds. I think somebody's getting served and getting served in violent fashion. Next, we got Cody Gibson going to get you Richie Long. Yeah, Gibson minus 190 can't get there. I see it. I see why money's coming in on Gibson. He has a clear path to victory with the wrestling. We've seen guys like Jay Perrin take down a Richie Long, but Gibson's 38 at bantamweight. The durability, a little iffy. I don't like how he's reacting to getting hit in some of these fights. The cardio, it's a little iffy, in some of his fights. I think he should win. I think he has the path to win, but minus 190, it's getting a little bit steep for my liking. I can see, that going pretty poorly, to be honest. But yeah, Gibson, give me Gibson. Could be a decision, could potentially be a submission. I lean decision just because of Richie Long, although has been sub 3 times. Those submission losses came like 10 years ago. He showed great submission defense against Raul Rosas Jr., and Johnny Munoz Jr. is also a legit BJJ black belt. So I think Richie Long probably survives, fights off the subs, and I think Gibson wins by decision there. All right, moving on to the next fight. We got Manon Fiorot going against Jasudavicius. Yeah, it's a tough fight to call. It's a very tough fight to call because, Manon Fiorot, she just came off of a title loss to Valentina Shevchenko in a fight that was, pretty competitive for the most part, right? Like, losing to Valentina Shevchenko, there's no shame in that, but Jasmine's hot. From a fight standpoint, she's very hot. She's going out there and she's not only winning fights, but she's dominating these bitches. She's taking them down. She's, pounding them out. She's submitting them. I mean, she submitted Jessica Andrade in like a couple minutes. I mean, just nobody runs through Jessica Andrade the way she did. So, yeah, I think Jasmine is a live dog. I just worry about the fact that Manon Fiorot does have elite footwork. She does have very good hips. She does have very good takedown defense. And this is a fight I think we're going to know real quick whether or not who wins this fight. If it turns out Jasmine's able to get a takedown, Jasmine's going to win. I truly think if Jasmine gets 2 takedowns, she wins this fight. I mean, Manon Fiorot, if she gets on her back, I mean, you don't want Jasmine on top of you. So, but I could also see a scenario where Fiorot does stuff all these takedowns, and if she's able to stuff these takedowns, it's going to be bad for Jasmine. So, it is definitely a dog or pass spot. I haven't pulled the trigger on anything. I don't think I will, but if I were to, it probably would be a shot on Jasmine. But, yeah, probably going to sit back and watch this one. Maybe look to potentially bet it live. Like if Jasmine gets a takedown, jump in live instantly. But you kind of want to see it live for a little bit, I think, first before I put any money on it. Next, we got Ayman Zahabi going against Marlon Vera. we got Zahabi minus 135, Vera plus 115. Another tough fight to call. We got a couple pick'em fights on this card. They're tough fights to call. This is another one of them. And it's tough for me to call because, I don't know which Marlon Vera is going to show up. Is it going to be the Marlon Vera who doesn't show up and doesn't fight for 15, 25 minutes? Is it going to be the Marlon Vera that he doesn't start fighting until the second round, and once he does, he gets going and he's really good, round 2, round 3 especially? I don't know. Are we going to get a motivated Marlon Vera? Are we going to get an unmotivated Marlon Vera? I really don't know. But if we got the best version of Marlon Vera, and I knew for a fact we were getting the best version of Marlon Vera, I'd be probably max betting him here at plus money. Zahabi, he's been looking good, but I don't think he's anything special. Like, he's low volume at the end of the day. He's not going to go out there and wrestle you. He doesn't have a ton of power in his hands. I think Marlon Vera is definitely the more dangerous guy. I think if there's any grappling upside, it does come from Marlon Vera. But ultimately, I think it's a close fight. I think it's a close fight. It probably goes to decision. It probably goes into the hands of the crooked, corrupt judges. I think Aiemann Zahabi is going to win round 1. I think Marlon Vera is going to win round 3, and it probably comes down to round number 2. So, yeah. I think this fight has split decision written all over it. With that said, I do have 2 units on the Marlon Vera finish only at minus 180. That line has moved. It's around like minus 240 now. But I think it pushes, just to be clear, I think it pushes. I think this fight does go the distance. But if this fight does finish, I definitely think it's going to come from Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera, one of the most durable guys in the UFC. Whereas Aiemann Zahabi has been finished before. We saw Jose Aldo, hurt him bad in the 3rd round as well. So, yeah, I like that Marlon Vera finish only. I think it probably pushes, but yeah, give me Marlon Vera to get the upset. Not too confident because you really can't be confident in that guy. And you really can't be confident in Mike Malot or Kevin Holland. A minus 110 pick makes a lot of sense. So, man, Kevin Holland is the dumbest guy I think I know. I mean, this guy is so dumb. He's coming back way too soon. Like, he just fought D-Rod less than 3 months ago, and I don't know if you guys remember, but he got his ass whooped for 10 minutes. He got wobbled in the 1st round. He got dropped twice in the 2nd round. Like, the fight could have been stopped. Just went, like, that's a type of war. Like, you want to take at least 6 months off from. I mean, that was a war. That was an absolute beating he sustained in the first 10 minutes. And I think he was coming into that fight with some sort of injury as well. And he's actually fought with an injury as well. He fought with a broken hand in the Ponzinibbio fight. So you just never know with this guy. The fight IQ sucks. The durability seems to be waning. And I can't trust Kevin Holland. I will never trust him ever again. But yeah, I guess he should beat Malot. But I mean, I'm going to pick Malot. I mean, I don't really have much confidence in who's going to win this fight. Mike Malot, I question his heart, cardio, and durability. With Holland, I question pretty much everything at this point. What I do like, though, is I like violence. I got in on the violence under 2.5 rounds at minus 130 for 1.3 units. And I think somebody's probably getting served here. I can see a Mike Malot knockout. If D-Rod, who doesn't have a ton of power, is knocking you down, I think Mike Malot can knock you out. Mike Malot has a ton of power. I think Kevin Holland can knock out Malot. But what I think is probably going to happen, I think Mike Malot's going to grapple here. And as we know, Kevin Holland just can't grapple. I mean, Holland's a black belt, but, off his back, he's not that great. He can't be taken down. He can't be subbed. He's been submitted 4 times. So I'm leaning Mike Malot by submission. But I like violence here. Under 2.5 rounds sounds good to me. And then we got the main event. Reinier de Ridder going against Brendan Allen. And I like violence here as well. So I have the fight doesn't go to decision in a parlay. Parlayed that with something from Contender Series that hit. And then I also had the under 3.5 rounds here at minus 135 for 1.35 units. And yeah, I was actually surprised to see the over-under was set at 3.5 when this is a Reinier de Ridder fight. Reinier de Ridder fights, they finish more often than not. I know he went to decision in his last fight with Robert Whittaker, but I mean, I kind of think that fight was a miracle to make it to the decision with how Robert Whittaker dropped de Ridder very badly in that 3rd round, how de Ridder was landing those nasty knees on Robert Whittaker. It was very surprising to see that fight go the distance, and I don't think this fight goes the distance. Brendan Allen, he's going to be dangerous, wherever this fight goes, but I think de Ridder's going to be even more dangerous wherever this fight goes. De Ridder's massive for the division. De Ridder has a ton of power in his hands and his knees especially. I think those knees can pay dividends here. De Ridder's taken this fight with the full camp, whereas Brendan Allen's taken this fight on short notice. And then if this fight hits the mat, although Allen is a really good grappler, I favor the grappling and the size of Reinier de Ridder. So I just think at some point de Ridder's going to catch Allen, whether that's a big shot on the feet, whether that's a knee, a punch. or De Ridder getting this fight down to the ground, smothering Allen, and eventually locking some up on the mat. So I like the under 3.5 rounds. I feel like that covers both sides. I like the fight doesn't go to decision as a parlay piece as well. Looking for violence in this main event, and looking for violence on the card. I like violence in the De Ridder fight. I like violence in the Fvola fight, the Malot fight, the Park fight. Liking some violence in Vancouver. So as long as some fights finish, should be a solid night. And from a money line standpoint, it's kind of tricky with a lot of these fights. I think a lot of these fights can really go either way. A couple pick'em type fights on there, but looking for some violence on the card there. There you guys have it. Best of luck for UFC Vancouver. Now that Dana White's Contender Series is over, going to be getting back to my usual content schedule. Expect earlier releases for the full card breakdown. Expect some more live streams popping up. Friday, Saturday, stuff like that. But yeah, guys, best of luck, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.